NCAA leaders and whoever else is a part of making decisions, they're idiots. And they are. So yesterday evening, Judge Claudia Wilkin of the House Settlement versus the NCAA ordered, related to the House Settlement, giving attorneys now 14 days to phase in and grandfather in roster limits, or she will deny the House Settlement. Remember, she told them this, Paul and Craig, on April the 7th, made it clear that she will approve the settlement if changes are made to the roster limits. Now, apparently, they weren't listening, or they're as arrogant and stubborn as they were for decades that led to this in the first place. And I don't think she's playing around. And boy, does the NCAA not need to get pissed off, have the judge pissed off at them. She probably is already.
Yeah, I think you're overplaying it a little bit, unless Paul reads it differently than I do. I mean, she definitely didn't agree with everything, and they had kind of been told that to begin with. But I don't think it's like, how dare you walk into my courtroom and act like that? It was more like, this isn't getting passed the way it's set up. If you make these changes, it will get passed to the roster limits. I mean, that's basically the most vanilla way to describe it. Now, could they be digging in their heels? Yeah, sure, but I don't think it's to the point where she's like bringing down the fire and rain on them as though they're,
I think I read it more as a little bit in between, in that one, like, okay, 2 weeks ago she told them to do this, and they haven't done it yet, and she didn't give them a very difficult directive.
No.
It's not like she said, okay, figure out all the money differently. The money was fine. That's the hard part, is the math of that. The roster limit thing is a pretty simple thing. Here, I'll tell you. All right, you want to get to 105, and now what is it, like 125 or whatever it is?
It's right, well, like 130, but
130. Yeah. Okay, so you take 130, you develop a 5-year plan, because that's what most eligibility is. You take a 5-year plan, and then each year over the 5 years, you whittle down some until 2030 gets you to 105.
Yeah.
So that's all you do. You know how long that took me to do? Just now.
30 seconds.
So that's what they should have done.
Here are some reactions.
The number's 105 for football.
Yeah.
You said 130?
It was,
what is it now?
It's 105 now. It was 130 up until they changed it.
Yeah.
Well, and she told them that, and their argument is that it's just, it's too hard to do it that way. And she wants them to like siphon it, basically, rather than just like chop it, rather than just chop the head off immediately and then just deal with it as it bleeds out. She wants them to like slowly, gradually do this in terms of the roster limits, not to just totally disrupt and just have hundreds of athletes just suddenly one day passes and then there's, 1,000 people that suddenly don't have scholarships. That was her
thousands.
That was the point of her argument, right? Was that there's going to all of a sudden be all of these athletes with nowhere to go out of nowhere, and that to protect them, it needs to be a more gradual route to the scholarship limit. So, that was her main point.
It was to slowly but surely get to maybe whatever the number is going to be. Here are some quotes in the Ross Dellinger article. The NCAA settlement on hold as judge requests changes on roster limits. We have no choice now. In reference to changing the roster concept, which they didn't do, and why she said what she said yesterday and put them back in the timeout corner 14 days. The court will delay denial of final approval to permit the parties to attempt to modify the settlement agreement. That's what she wrote. So that members of the injunctive relief settlement class will not be harmed by the immediate implementation of the roster limits and provisions, those who are in school now. And she's even discussed maybe a year or two of those in high school now. And then here, one high-ranking college leader told Ross Dellinger, we are playing chicken with a damn federal judge.
Yeah, I mean, if they choose to do that, and if they do, then guess what? College sports is going to get decimated. They already lose every lawsuit they're a part of for the most part. This one's clear cut. Like, they have no chance to win this lawsuit. So, like, that's why I just think we kind of view it a little bit differently. As you're like seeing as like, oh man, they're in trouble, and like I don't think they don't know that they're in trouble, but it's not like they're in trouble they can't get out of. All they got to do is just listen to the judge and do it the way she says. But the problem is, many of the schools have already started going on as if this has been official. And so there's players getting cut and the thing's not even official yet. So now what happens when you've cut players in the last couple of weeks to get ready for these scholarship limits that you expected to be put in place? Now they're not. Now they're saying, no, you're going to siphon these gradually, trim these rosters so that everybody who's playing now, that's who you've got to worry about in this thing, right? Is the people who are playing now. They're the people she's afraid of are going to get like 2 years of their academic or their athletic careers lopped off. So you need to phase out this current wave of athletes into the new period of where there's this new number limit, not just chop off this huge block to get to the limit right away. So that's the point of it. And so that's what she's fighting back on, is protecting the current student athletes so they didn't get royally screwed by this. And then you eventually get to where you want to go. But she is giving them a very, very easy exit. It's just it's not the exit they want to take.
Chris Kleiman, remember he warned us about this, or what it would be like to tell players who want to be at your school because they want to be at your school, whether walk-ons or not, that they no longer had a spot on the roster, and he had to go through that. Now, this was before the ruling from Judge Wilkin, or you have 14 days to get this done. So here is Kansas State defensive coordinator Joe Klanderman, who was meeting with the media, and I don't know if Kleiman, I think he wanted to be the one that spoke for his head coach, when discussing what has been going on over the last few days as they're wrapping up their spring.
It's terrible. It's awful that you have to explain that to them and the kids that really want to be here, because K-State's a I want to be here place, right? K-State's not a stop along the way, and it's unique that way. And to tell a kid that really wants to be a part of K-State and really wants to be a part of the tradition here and really wants to be a part of the development process that we're doing here, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, the whole deal, to tell him that he can't be a part of that's awful. And I think Coach Kleiman's had some very difficult meetings in the last couple of days. I think he would tell you it's probably the low point of his career to have to do that. And, I just think of some of the guys and the impact that they've had on me, and want to help those guys any way that we can. And it's just, I'm not entitled to all the reasons or the rationale why, but I do see how it affects real people, and I think it stinks. And we're not the only school going through it, and I don't think it's good for the game, and I don't think it's I certainly don't think it's good for Kansas State, because we're not the type of we're a developmental place. I mean, if you take that away from us 5 years ago, you never get to see Brendan Mott, who's the Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. You don't get to see Austin Moore, who's a two-time captain. You don't get Jordy Nelson, and those are things that especially at schools like this are gonna hurt things long term.
I reached out to Coach Kleiman and asked him. I didn't get a response from him, and I can understand why. But what happens now to those who you said there was no more room on the roster, with the judge giving them 14 days to make this decision of how they come back on roster limits? Do those players hit the portal now? They have to go find a spot, or are they now in a holding pattern? I don't know what the answer is to that.
Well, I'm sure part of the reason that she wanted to get this done a little quicker is because there is a ticking clock for, a couple of sports right now when it comes to roster. And it's not just roster limits for football. It's roster limits for, like, some are going up, some are coming down, like all the different things. So there's a ticking clock, and yeah, they've created a problem here where, again, I don't know, like, how this is supposed to work, but in these situations, if I'm the NCAA and these lawsuits and settlements, I'm always making sure that we have a plan B, at least pretty functionally ready to go except for maybe minor tweaks, so that if we lose any part of a thing that, on a settlement, that we can just go back through and go, okay, well, all right, what if we switch out this for this? How do you like that? And she can say, okay, well, there's a good framework for it. Just tweak these things and I'll approve it. But that doesn't appear to be how they.
But she's already done
things.
that. Everything was okay, but
clearly they didn't have a plan for this.
No.
They were just like, all right, well, yeah. So
these are some of the most well-paid, smartest, dumb people ever. I mean, just the amount of times they go to court and you go like, well, surely they had a plan B. Nope, not really. It's like, what? Yeah, I mean, it boggles your mind that you would think there would be some alternative ready to go. But yeah, I mean, the solution here is simple. Like as messy as you want to make it sound, or as messy as you think that it might be, I mean, go back to the drawing board, deal with the fact you are going to not have the roster implementation that you thought you were going to have. It's not happening. You're not dropping down to the numbers that you guys proposed months ago. That's not happening right now. That'll happen when these current athletes all lose their eligibility, but that's not what's going to work. So either go figure it out and bring all these athletes back that you've just cut, or, figure that part. I mean, that's going to be the messy part, is figuring out what happens with all the people who've already started looking for new schools or even found new schools. But you go figure that out, bring back everybody or do whatever you can there. And then you get all your people together and say, all right, when does this start? Like we've got 5 years or 4 years or 3 years until we start like siphoning this off. Mm-hmm. All right. So how do we prepare for that? And that's what you do, because the alternative is there is no alternative, guys. That's what they're going to do. Because it's that, or it's go face the United States government in court. And we know that's not going to go well. So that's their two choices. And we know which choice they're going to make, because it's the only one that's going to keep them in any semblance of what they are right now.
She's a federal judge. She is getting a little bit antsy. She's already given them plenty of time. She's given them the directions, and they didn't listen to her.
She's also a federal judge who's retiring soon, and this is like one of the last things she's doing. So throw that just the personal life in there, like, hey, can I get this one done and move on and like clear my docket so that I can relax?
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. And yet again, there's confusion. There shouldn't be. It's cut and dried to me. Even if they would have come back to her and said, we'll take out 2 and then 9 and then 16 or whatever, it would have at least been giving in a little bit in a negotiation, and then she could have gone with it however she wants. Now,